Yeah. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody in the building. We are Unc and Phew, man. End of the year show 2023. How do you feel, Unc? How do you feel? How you feeling about the last show of the year, man? Crazy.
Well, man, I'm in that fantasy championship final today, so yeah, no, I'm feeling good. I mean, especially after I had a bit of a rough start to the year. I think I was a 2-3 after week 5, so I had some work to do. And
Mm.
yeah, here I am. I got through to the final. I'm playing probably the luckiest bugger in the whole damn league. Uh, like,
I played him last week, bro. Don't even remind me.
right? Like that guy just, you know, uh, out of nowhere, he got 25 points out of Ford on Thursday night. Like,
Man, and on top of that, be honest, like last week when I was facing him, right? I had Pickens on the bench.
yeah. So yeah, just so
Crazy.
so yeah, I don't count anything as banked at this point. In fact, I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna mention it any further, just in case he's listening.
It was
But other
supposed to
than
be
that,
you and me, man. It was supposed
I
to be you
know,
and me
dude.
because I was
I
running the league. I was running the table on the league, and then you came back in the second half, and I'm damn,
Yeah,
man. But
it's
you
a
got to
long
win for me
season.
tonight, man. You got to win
Yeah,
for me tonight, man.
I'm hoping to represent for sure for all the
Let's
people who
go, man.
manage fantasy football like it actually matters.
Hey, man, our listeners care about fantasy football. I got texts about people who listen in and tap in, so we're
Get
having
out
an
of town,
impact. You
really?
know what I mean? Yeah, man. Like my cousin, actually, my cousin, he's not even really a football fan like that. He was more of a soccer guy. But he was
Yeah,
texting me. He's like, "Yeah, I watch you guys. I watch what you guys say." I'm like, "Oh shit, okay,
right
cousin."
on. Well,
So we have a little fan base.
when we get to
Mm,
the fantasy section today, I got all kinds of tidbits for everybody. So
uh,
anybody who's playing this weekend is playing for real. So yeah, I got the skinny for you.
I like that. I like that. But something that ain't skinny is Joe Flacco. That man is not skinny. That man is balling out, man. We gotta talk about it. The man
Yeah.
killed it on Thursday night football. I think the Browns are on a 3-game winning streak right now.
So
Joe Flacco and the Browns, they might even push for a number one seed. I don't want that to happen as a Ravens fan, but how do you feel about,
I
possibly
I
comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco, man?
oh, without a doubt. It is a
Mhm.
remarkable story in Cleveland.
Straight up.
Because remember when
Mhm.
we started this year off, right? We had
Yep.
Watson in there, and how would he do, et cetera. And then we all know the story of the two quarterbacks that came in his wake afterwards. But the one thing we said is that the Browns have a rocking defense and a good running game, and so they'll be okay. Well, the running game
Mhm.
went away for a little bit. They played like the Brownies on the road, and then like the new Browns at home, and so there was a bit
Yeah.
of a disparity there. And in comes Joe Flacco off
From
the
the
couch,
couch.
right? 38 years old, pushing 40, right?
Yep.
And here he comes, and he's put up 13 TDs, almost 1,600 yards, and 8 interceptions. So it is the same old Joe Flacco in a pass first offense that
Yes.
is on a remarkable run. They're what are they now? 11-5 or 10
11 and
or
5.
11 and
Yep.
5. One
Mhm.
game. I think one. Well, they could go up to 2 games again behind.
Yeah.
They're a half game behind, or a game and a half behind Baltimore right now. There'll be two
Yes, a game
games
and a half there. Yep.
if
They
Baltimore
just
wins
need
tonight. So
yeah.
I don't think that they threaten the overall AFC position and NFC North
Mhm.
position of Baltimore. I don't see that happening, but I
Mhm.
do see them being the first among wild cards, possibly in the AFC.
They could
Uh,
win a wild card game. Yes. Yep.
right?
I can definitely
Yeah,
see
and
it.
they're definitely the type of team that's getting hot at the right time that you do not want to play. So, yeah, the Browns are a remarkable story right now. I'm cheering for them as AFC North brethren, right? Steelers obviously aren't going to do it. Like I'm just holding on for that winning record for, for Tomlinson again this year. Like I suggested, was a reasonable goal for the Steelers, but for the
Yeah.
Browns. The Browns are having an historic season relative to their history, and I'm cheering for them.
Absolutely.
Darn right I am. Darn right I am. And I love the Flacco story.
I'm gonna say this as a Ravens fan, as a dude who wants to wrap up the number one seed. I'm half
Yeah,
because
you're torn, obviously.
don't want to
Yeah, you want.
see. I don't want to see Flacco in the playoffs because guess what? He's 10-5 in the playoffs, man.
Yeah, the guy's a
And
winner.
he's really good in the playoffs, man. He knows how to turn it on
Oh
when it
yeah.
comes in the postseason. So that's scary to me. I can definitely see them winning a wild card because
Oh
if
yeah.
they
At
don't win the
least.
division, they're either playing the Jags or the Texans. I think I don't know, and I can see them winning in Jacksonville. I can see them winning in Houston. Really,
Hmm.
if the seeding goes how I expect it to go, you know what I mean. So it should be. They could even. They might even play Miami, depending how it goes. It's
Yeah.
gonna be
There's some in,
interesting, bro.
there's some
Mm,
interesting scenarios. Yeah. Yeah. Like
man. Hmm.
yeah. No. We were talking about. I mean, we'll get to the Chiefs in a bit, but
For sure.
the Chiefs are a team that are looking at a whole new world. The Chiefs have been used to just sitting and camping out at home in their home stadium for the playoffs, for two
Yeah.
playoff games a year. They are
Mm.
in all likelihood going to go on the road this year, and they will have to
Oh.
play probably a wild card game. And their
Mhm.
opponent in that game is most likely going to be either Buffalo, or if Buffalo dislodges Miami, probably Miami, or the
Wow.
Browns, right? So
Oh
yeah, yeah.
snap! That would be
The
crazy. Imagine
the
seeing
AFC
Mahomes
the
in,
AFC
in
wild
Cleveland.
card the AFC
Mhm.
wild card positions are going to be hot. Yeah,
Man, I think
yeah,
those games are gonna be fire. It's gonna be probably shootouts in a lot of them, or maybe not. Because I'm
yeah,
gonna give you an audible on this, right? Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions
yeah,
going
yeah.
against Mike McCarthy's Cowboys, man. How
That
did you feel about that game? That was wild because I kind of expected a shootout, but
mhm.
then it
Everybody
just
did.
became a defensive bang
Hmm.
bang type of
Yep.
battle that ended
The
in controversy, man. How did you feel about that, brother?
well, that's a similar game to what we saw when Miami played the Chiefs in on a neutral field in Germany, right?
Yes, in
The over
Germany
under was
earlier this year.
the over under
Mm-hmm.
was 50 plus, right? Because everybody expected, Mahomes'
Yeah,
Chiefs from 2 years ago to play this year's Miami team. It didn't happen.
not at all.
And in fact, both, remember I said at the time, watch out, right? This could be a slobber knocker defensive game. It ended up being exactly that. And so,
They
yeah,
called it up.
we
Mm-hmm.
saw the same thing again here with Dallas and Detroit, which was, for
For
all
sure.
intents and purposes, a playoff game. If for nothing
Yes, it
else, than
was.
than positioning, and
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is just hungry for every win it can get because it wants the number one seed in its own division. So that
For
was, for
sure.
all intents and purposes, a playoff game, even though Detroit had already clinched, right? But Detroit's
Yes,
also
sir.
jockeying for the best position it can get. And yeah, a
Mm-hmm.
19-20 game that was
Mm-hmm.
split right down the middle statistically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was. I didn't get to see that game, but that was on the scoreboard. That was a really great game,
Oh yes.
scoring
Oh
throughout,
yes.
but just about half as much as people were anticipating. 2/3 as much as people were anticipating. The over under on that game was supposed to be 53 and a half. They barely got. They didn't get to
Oh
40.
no.
They didn't get
What?
to 40. They didn't get to 40.
No, not even
Yeah,
40. I'm
yeah.
telling you, I saw the
So
end of
yeah,
the game and
that
I
can
was like,
happen.
damn, defensive battle all the way through. And I think the best drive was the Detroit Lions with about 43 seconds left. Jared Goff was just throwing darts. Laporte,
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, just dicing the Dallas defense. And then the controversy at the very end, where I believe one of the linemen, Decker, was trying to tell the ref, he's a left tackle for the Detroit Lions, was trying to tell the ref, hey, I'm about to be an eligible receiver. It seemed like the ref didn't hear the lineman Decker say that he was going to be eligible. They go for the play because they just scored. They scored a touchdown with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're going for the 2 point conversion. The Jared Goff perfectly passes it to the lineman Decker. Boom. Detroit is up 21-20 with about
Oh, and did
damn
they
near
declare him
20 seconds left.
ineligible?
Then the flag came, and then he didn't declare and as an eligible receiver. Dan Campbell is freaking out, going crazy on the sideline, cussing everybody out. Refs are like, bruh, you gotta run it again.
All right.
They
So
they run it. Mm-hmm.
for all
Yeah, so
intents and purposes, Dallas actually
mhm.
had its first loss at home this year
Yes, it
to
was really
Detroit.
controversial, man. It was a super controversial last
Yeah,
drive,
I don't
and
see.
then
Uh,
the
anyhow,
refs really messed up. The refs,
anyhow,
ooh,
the instant replay shows that receiver
mm,
talking to the ref. That should be
yes, it
overruled.
did.
That
With
should have
the
been overruled.
it should
Like,
have been, it
what
should have
else did
been.
he say to him? How's the kids?
You see what I'm saying? You see
Yeah,
what I'm saying here? It was so. If I was a Detroit Lions fan, I'd be hot right now
if I'm
because
Dan Campbell,
he
I'm
came.
pissed as fuck.
He was pissed at his post game conference. He was like, look like he was gonna cuss everybody out,
I
and
don't
I'm like,
blame him.
damn, you have every right because
I don't
that
blame him.
game is so critical. Because say the Lions won, right? They would be 12-4,
That's
tied
right.
up with the Niners,
Okay, like it's not a
and that
fucking
would be
joke, man. It's not a joke. We're
yeah.
talking about staying in Detroit indoors for the
Hmm.
playoffs or having to go
And you
down to
know what?
San Francisco if they proceed. Like that's not a joke.
Not a joke at all, bro. And they
Fuck,
were
man.
pissed. And you know what it is? I've been just seeing so many trends of these last minute end of game reffing calls, and I'm like, bruh, you see,
Incompetent.
you know me, Unc. You know me. I'm a conspiracy guy sometimes. I'm like, I get this info hat, bruh, and I'm like, Dallas at home, everybody watching, the most popular team. Something's fishy out here, and they pulled up the history of this ref, Tim Allen or some ish like that.
Right?
He's had some very suspect calls. I'm not
Really?
saying nothing, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
are your thoughts? What's your live reaction to this? I know you're pissed about it. I'd be mad too.
Yeah, yeah, no, that to me that's just utterly new levels of incompetence. If you know,
Ah,
anyhow, there's video footage of that guy checking in with the dude, talking to that ref in any way, shape, or form.
yep,
I think that's outrageous. Because, like I said, I mean, he did everything specifically right. He
yep,
came
yeah, he
in,
did.
checked in. So how could that call be made? How could that call not be overturned by the guy who interacted with him? Like that is like
Mm,
I can explain a missed call in the end zone or you know or some missed holding or something like I can always chalk that up to we're humans, we're imperfect. He was
yeah,
in position, like he did everything else right, so he just he fucking missed it. The player's arm was in front of was in between him and the ref's eyes or something, so he missed that little portion of the play that was crucial, and that's why they have
yeah,
the instant replay now, because that was such
for
an
sure.
issue for about 20 years. But there is
Hmm.
no way on earth, like, without that ref calling the player a liar,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, like they were the only two people in that space.
And my thinking is they need to start. In my opinion, they need to start finding refs for bad calls, man. They
Well,
need because you know how they find. There has to be
there's got
some
to be an
kind of
audit.
punishment, man.
There's
Yeah,
got to be
yeah,
some type of audit
facts.
that doesn't undermine them on the field. But in the
Hmm.
postseason, you're darn right. The head of referees or
No.
whoever it is, there's got to be an executive position in there somewhere in charge of referees. And
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
I would really like to hear that ref explain himself. I really would.
Yeah, I tried to listen to some of the post games, and it just seemed like maybe the ref had it confused with another lineman because two linemen were being eligible for that play. It was a trick play, obviously, but both of them came to the ref and made it clear, at least from what we saw on the replays. And it seems like the ref got confused or just messed up, whatever it was. But bruh, that's gonna affect seeding, especially when we're going in the playoffs. And
Yes, it
one thing's
is.
for sure though, the Niners have been exposed when we're talking about Ravens versus Niners, man. And we
Yeah.
gotta talk about it. You excuse me. But you were on the Niners, like
Yep.
a lot of people. You were on the
Hmm.
me, and well, like we talked about last podcast, I'm never gonna bet against my team, but
Yep.
I had
And
my
remember, I
doubts.
said that. Remember, I said
Yes,
that.
we talked about that. We're never betting. I didn't bet against my team, but
Yeah.
man, Mike Florio getting flamed.
Oh my
Most
God.
of national media getting flamed for the Ravens winning a massive game on Christmas. Unc, what
They
did you think about that game, man? Talk to me.
Well, first and foremost,
Mm.
let me talk about Florio there for a second. Yeah, see where those guys messed up, and where I think that I did not, and it's not because I'm
Mm.
comparing myself to them, just the situation is the amount of emphasis that they put into their body language and their wording of about just how badly San Francisco was going to handle Baltimore. And that definitely seemed to serve as some bulletin board material for Lamar and them, because yeah, like they're like these guys aren't even trying to like act like we have
You
a
said
chance.
beat. You
Remember?
said beat the shit out of them, man. It was
Yeah,
like
right.
just going above, you know.
Yeah, that was uncalled for. Well, remember when
Yeah.
I made my call, right? Remember I said, "Well, I got to approach this really carefully, man. Like,
Uh-huh.
Baltimore's on the road, but this is like a Super Bowl preview. I did the points for, the points against. And remember, I
Yeah.
came up and I said that lands us at 4.4 points. For San Francisco. So that's not
Oh
that
yeah.
big, but it's within the point spread. So I remember I said take Baltimore. I said my gut told me to take San Francisco, and I did in my actual pick
It
sheet.
was a head and heart situation. You said head and
Right.
heart. Your heart
But
was saying Baltimore, but your head was saying San Fran due to
but
the
I
point spread.
made the
Yep.
point.
Yep.
I made the
Mm.
point that the data did not fully support the 49ers winning by 5 or more.
Yes, you did
So
make that point. Yeah, you said
but
it'd be close.
they had
Hmm.
been very convincing. And so, yeah, and so let's be real. I mean, the 49ers were exposed earlier in the year in their 3 game losing streak. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there are lessons, and every
Yes.
time a team loses, there are lessons in there.
Yes.
What did they play? What didn't they play? What type of defense were they playing against the offense, et cetera, right? So, every time you
Hmm.
lose, you get exposed a little bit. So that's
Yes,
four
sir.
losses now. The 3 earlier ones were a little questionable. Everyone's going like, well, what's going on? Well, the Baltimore win absolutely showed that San Francisco is nothing like invincible, that you most certainly can beat them. The same as it was
Absolutely.
for the same as it was for all the other San Francisco teams that won Super Bowls, I might note. They only had one
Mm.
season where San Francisco went 15-1. They got beat by the
Mm.
Steelers on Monday Night Football, and it was so great. But
Nice.
It's their only loss of the season, dude. Um, and the
Nice.
Steelers were having a season like this season.
Mm.
But anyways, yeah. So like that's just how it is in the NFL. Any
Yes.
given Sunday isn't a saying for a reason. But
Oh
Baltimore
yes.
went in there with purpose and determination and just showed you how good they really are when they focus.
Oh
Right?
man, and on top of that, think about it like this. The Niners have met AFC North teams before. They lost to the Cleveland Browns and the Bengals earlier this year.
There you
You know
go, man.
when he was on
Black.
that skid? Yeah. Uh, so they're beatable. There was a
Right.
playbook on them that a lot of teams are not seeing. And think about it like this.
Well,
The Niners don't see AFC North teams a lot. It's very rare. You know what I mean?
Well, this is what we were saying initially, why it was going to be such a
Mhm.
tasty matchup, because that there was indeed an NFC North template for victory, and we were going to see how the
Yes.
more finesse-oriented 49ers, who played with great precision and whatnot, how they buck up against that like just rugged, rugged AFC North style, right? They didn't fare.
Yes,
They
they got
didn't
punched in the mouth. They
they didn't
got like
fare that
they,
well. They didn't fare
and
that
think
well. Old Mr. Purdy
yes.
over there tossed 4 picks.
4. So
Four,
now we're like, you know, it's
right?
crazy. I tweeted something like, "Oh man, Cam Newton is somewhere laughing his ass off," during the
They
game, and I'm like, "Bruh,
they
Cam Newton was
harassed
Cam
him.
right?"
They harassed him. They did not
Oh
let
my
him get
goodness.
set up in the pocket where he could just sit back and pick apart the defenses, which is what he was prepared to do. And you'll
Yes.
in the same way, this will be satisfying for you as a Baltimore fan and all the other Baltimore
Mm.
fans. The same way that San
Yeah.
Francisco has shown throughout this year, like when they played Philly, right?
Mm.
They just pick you apart, right? Usually by midway
Oh
through the
yes.
second quarter, they've got you figured out, and now it's just bing bang boom down the field and run up the score, right? Because they figured out
Yes.
what you're gonna do, and it usually only takes them a quarter and a half to figure it out. It was the other
Mm.
way around this time, man. Baltimore got San Francisco figured out by the end of the second quarter and dominated with
Yes.
4 straight scoring plays right through the third quarter. They finished the
Mhm.
second quarter with a field goal. Then it was like field goal, 2 touchdowns in a row before the 49ers finally put in like a garbage time. Well, it wasn't garbage time, but it was like the only score of the
Yeah.
fourth quarter, like midway through or whatever. They managed to get one in. Well, from
Yes.
Sam Darnold, no less.
Of all guys,
Right.
Sam Darnold. And you know what's crazy? Sam Darnold actually looked kind of good in the offense. He looks
Anybody
pretty
looks good
sharp.
in that offense. Anybody looks good in
I'm
that
like,
offense when they're not playing Baltimore.
you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, are these game manager allegations true about Brock Purdy? But he had hands down his worst game, and it was
Well,
the pressure of the
yeah,
Ravens defense that was getting to him. And I
right.
think very few teams can do that to a guy like Brock Purdy. They made him look
Yeah. I'm
very
not
average to bad. You
I'm
know what I
not
mean?
counting out the 49ers anytime soon. They're
Me
still
neither,
my
man.
odds-on favorite in the NFC and probably overall. Because remember, what's the other thing I've said, right? Say they meet again in the
Mm.
Super Bowl, right?
Oh,
What's the
true.
one thing I say a lot, right? How difficult it is to beat a team, a quality team, twice in one season. Because remember,
Oh, that's so true, man.
San Francisco now has an hour's worth of film of what Lamar and them want to
No,
do,
oh, that's so true. Yeah, beating a good team twice is tough. But
right?
something that I think is really tough is when we look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs collapsing versus the Raiders. Now, this is the first time the Raiders are beating the Chiefs in almost 10 years.
Oh, that
You
was
know what I
so
mean?
sweet.
So, how did you feel about that, Unc? Barely a crazy stat. The Raiders didn't have a completed pass after the first half, bro. I think
Yeah.
maybe the first quarter of the first half. Aiden O'Connell didn't didn't get a receiver for a full half of football, and the Raiders still won. Chiefs
Yeah.
looked crazy mad.
Devontae Adams had
Travis
like
Kelce was
7 points.
pissed. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Devontae Adams never had 7 points. How did you feel about that, bro?
Well, Devontae Adams has had a down season all year. We'll get to that later. But
Yes, he did not.
what
Yeah.
I felt was well, I love that new coach there. What's his name? Antonio Pierce.
Antonio Pierce, man. Yup, he should get
Yeah,
that
that
job, but
guy.
it's the
That
Raiders. You never
guy
know.
is clearly inspirational to his team. He went in there and yeah, he punched. He talk about people getting punched in the mouth. Kansas City got punched in the
Punch.
mouth. Right?
Straight up.
Like you could see
Mhm.
it. You could see it midway through the third quarter, getting into the fourth, where they were done. They were finished. They just didn't want to go up against that defense anymore. They were tired. And I told you I was texting with you, and I told you I said Mahomes has that look in
Yeah.
his eye, like he's determined that he's going to win today, and he's pretty sure he has to do everything. Oakland didn't care. Wasn't
Didn't
nothing he
care.
could pull out of his bag of tricks that Oakland didn't have an
Mhm.
answer for. Oakland's defense like in fantasy
Really
terms,
good.
since that guy took over, are like scoring like 20 points a week.
What? On fantasy, they're going 20 points a week? Jeez.
Yeah,
Well, it kind of makes sense if you just watch the games because they're getting picks, they're getting sacks, they're shutting everything down. They
yeah,
made Mahomes look so average because Mahomes is throwing the guys getting
yeah,
past defenses, getting picked off. They called one interception back, I
yeah.
remember, but Mahomes did not have a Mahomes game, and Mahomes not even having a Mahomes season, man.
No, he's
You know what
not.
I mean? And then you
Well,
look at that, you're like, wow, are the Raiders the team?
yeah.
There's
Well,
the crazy part. There's a scenario that they could get in the playoffs. Oh
yeah, I know
my
where you're
god,
going with this. I took a
let's
look at
see.
that. Chiefs in Oakland are just like
Yeah.
Denver was when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. A couple 3 weeks
Oh,
ago,
we're gonna touch on that.
we were saying KC better watch its win total because anyhow they only have a two game lead, and anyhow they allow it to allow themselves to get tied. I think
Yeah,
Denver had the tiebreaker, and probably Oakland has it now too.
I
Um,
guess.
but but anyways, yeah, the way it looks now, though, the Chiefs have there's 2 games left, and the Chiefs have a 2 game lead, right? So they're playing the
Mm,
Bengals and then the Chargers, and Oakland's playing
mm,
the Colts and then the Broncos. So I don't know
okay.
the
Okay.
likelihood of Oakland winning both their games and the Chiefs losing both of theirs to create a tiebreaker scenario. I don't buy quite that much, but it's a great story about Oakland. or pardon me, Vegas.
Vegas. Yeah, I know. They
Yeah,
used to be LA, they used to be Oakland, now they're Vegas. I get confused too, man.
to me, they're always the Oakland Raiders. I mean, I grudgingly accepted the LA Raiders because they actually pretty, they knocked it out of the park down there. They were pretty
Yeah,
great.
they did really good.
But the move to Vegas, it's going to take a long time before I think of the Raiders as the Vegas Raiders, right? But that's who they are. And so my
Yeah.
apologies to the citizens of Las Vegas. But anyways, yeah, the Raiders, I don't believe pull off that miracle. That would really take. So that would be one of those really wild last weekends of the NFL. But I don't
You
count the
know.
Bengals out today. But I don't think they're going to win. And the Chargers
Mm,
again, right? I just how
oh,
bad could the Chiefs
yeah.
really be? Put it this way: anyhow, the Chiefs did allow themselves to get caught in this division. They
Yeah.
they they wouldn't deserve it. They wouldn't deserve anything.
I think
So
about it like this, man. There's been so many times I looked at I've looked at the Raiders, I've looked at the Broncos, and I'm like, they're playing better football than the Chiefs. A lot of times I've
at
seen that, and
times,
I'm like,
yeah,
damn. But then the Chiefs sometimes when they're firing, but
that's
they're
why I
just
say,
more spaced out. So I think the Chiefs will win the division, but
yeah,
in general, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Raiders sneak in. I would be very shocked if the Broncos sneak in, which leads to our next conversation. But how do you feel about the benching of Russell Wilson, man? That's something that it's crazy. I'll just go first, and my thinking is I think Sean Payton and the Broncos front office look terrible for doing this. You look at a guy like
they
Russell
do.
Wilson, he's given 28 touchdowns on 8 interceptions. He's the reason you went on your 5-game winning streak. Obviously, your defense played lights out,
He's
but
got numbers like
Russ,
Lamar, except for all the rushing, though.
yes, actually, you can argue he has better numbers than Lamar. Lamar's at 19 TDs, 7 picks. I'm telling you right now, the Sean Payton, I think, never liked Russell Wilson. The
Yep.
front office, I don't think, liked Russell. He was set up to fail in my eyes, and I think that the Broncos just look like an overall trash organization.
Yeah.
Dropping I argue right now. I say Russ is like a top 12 to 15 quarterback. You can even say top 10 quarterback this year. Unc, what do you feel about that, man? How do you feel about the Broncos basically folding their season and benching a quarterback who's a Super Bowl winner? You know what I mean?
Well,
How do you
you
feel?
brought in an A-type personality quarterback or coach who's determined to stamp his brand of football on them.
Yep. Yep.
Have you ever known a friend group that had a friend in it who was he thought he was pretty cool, but a new friend comes in and he just hates the new guy. He just hates this guy. He just something gets on his nerves. He just
Yep.
he can't really explain it, but he just doesn't like the guy, right?
Yep.
And that's basically Sean Payton and Russell. All right, Russell Wilson. So that's
Mm,
unfortunate for Russell. But when you
yeah.
saw the way he got disrespected on the sideline by that coach, Peyton talked to Russell Wilson like he was a little boy. And that's clearly how he thinks of him. He doesn't really
Yep.
think much of his, you know, whatever, his personality, his approach to life, his game, his attitude, the raw jingoism that Russell Wilson, likes to front. Like there's a little something about Russell that, and
He's fake.
Peyton's
He's
not the
fake as
only
fuck.
one. Yeah, he gets under a few people's nerves, but like this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
professional football. That shouldn't be an issue unless it
Mm,
starts, unless it affects, overall performance. If the rest of the friend group eventually falls in line with Sean Payton, then, but the thing is, you're talking about the quarterback here, right?
yep.
Everybody else's success depends on him. And the way he's played
Hmm.
this season, and especially of late,
Yes.
and compared to the rest of the league, right? I mean,
Hmm.
and all their quarterback problems, it doesn't seem like Denver really has that much to worry about. But this is the other
No.
thing. This is the other thing, right? They have stupid amounts of cash. They have Walmart dollars that they can easily say to Sean, "Oh, you really don't like the guy? Not a problem. Not a problem. We're just going to pay him off. He's going to get out of here.
Yeah.
We'll draft or pick somebody up." the joke that's going around is that can you imagine the humor if they end up with Drew Lock in free agency or something like that?
Oh shit! Wow,
Because he
imagine.
looked pretty good. He looked
He
pretty
looked
good there
really
when
good,
Gino was
actually.
out.
Yeah. And here's the
So
crazy part, if you really think
yeah,
about it,
Sean.
Russ could somehow go back to the Seahawks. Anyways, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like Sean Payton wants to run downhill first, second, and third, and if he
Yeah.
has to pass on third, he does. And he wants the type of quarterback like Drew Brees, somebody that he can just trust. He's an automaton. The guy knows the playbook inside and out, and that's what he wants. Yep, he
Yeah.
doesn't want no frilly stuff.
No, he doesn't want a guy who can kind of scramble around or kind of improvise,
It's
and that's what Russ
unpredictable.
is.
It's
You
unpredictable.
know, Russ has
He's
gotten a
not
lot of
quite what
game winners. He's not
he's
like a
not quite
robot standard. Yeah.
He's not. Sean Payton isn't quite Woody Hayes, who once said that only three things can happen with a pass, and two of them are bad.
Oh
Right.
shit.
So 3 yards in a cloud of dust was his mantra for a couple generations. But Sean
Wow.
Payton is from that's his perspective. He wants defense and running special teams first, right? And when all that's taken care of, you pass the ball. So yeah,
Yes.
Russell
Yeah.
Russell and his cooking wasn't going to make much of a meal for Sean Payton. That was written as soon as he got there, because that's what I was hearing, was that the agreement
Yeah.
was that we would give Russ because of out of deference to Russ and out of deference to the contract and all the money that had been expended, the draft picks and all that stuff. They were going to give Russ a year. Right. So obviously Sean Payton didn't want him
Mm,
there from Jump Street from the very beginning. So,
mm.
anyways, as we get to this stage of the season into week 14, by this time, Peyton's seen enough. He knows what he knows, and he's cursing the kid out like he's fucking caught him trying to steal his lunch money or something.
Yeah, and I'm like, for me,
Like
I'm
a
like,
little
this may be the
kid.
first time I've seen a head coach go off
Yeah.
on his
Yeah. It was,
quarterback. And this is
yeah.
not like a regular, this is not a rookie. This is not what's his face? The this is not that quarterback in the
Some
Patriots.
major,
You know, this
some
is a
major veteran
major veteran,
played in the
multi-million
Super
dollar
Bowl.
quarterback, two-time Super Bowl appearance, you know what I mean? He has
Yeah.
a ring. He's not a little boy. You know
That's
what I mean?
it.
But he got little Boyd, and that reminded me. Maybe you can give me some history
I mean, it
perspective.
was, sorry, one last thing. It
Mm,
was intended
yeah,
as a
for sure.
message to the rest of the team.
Mm, it was a message, huh? You think?
Yep. This guy's out and I'm in.
Oh, it was like to the guy saying, "This is my shit now. I run
Yeah.
it. I'm the
Yeah.
boss."
Please
So,
me.
wow. And the crazy part is here's where it gets weird, because if Sean Payton doesn't win out these next two games, there's going to be questions about him. If this plan doesn't work
Oh, he's
fast,
got the backing. No. Sean Payton's not
you
going
think he's got the
anywhere.
backing? You think he's going to be
Oh
fine?
yeah. There's no way they would have got. There's no way Walmart and company would have $38 million or whatever it's going to be, possibly even more, on
Yeah,
this
yeah, he
guy.
paid a lot.
There's no way.
Wow.
They've eaten so much cash over this, and they haven't blinked.
And then you think about the guy who's coming in, Jared Stidham. Really? That's the guy who you're going to put your franchise.
Doesn't matter at this point. Doesn't
Oh,
matter at this point. All
wow.
Sean Payton's trying to do at this point is finish out the season. And
Yeah,
like finish out, he wants to finish out the season, and he wants to recognize the team he's going to put on the field next year. Like Sean Payton's
yeah.
doing his own thing right now. I don't think Sean Payton's thinking about the playoffs even a little bit. He's trying to
eh,
he's trying to debut people. He's trying to look and see
yeah.
who fits into his model, and he just wants to play out the schedule. And they'll figure it out. They'll figure out the other parts next year. Oh yeah,
And I heard some of the talking heads, they were saying that, some of the media guys that said that Sean Payton has already started doing this. He got rid of Randy Gregory early in the year. That was a
hmm
good pass rusher for the Broncos. Kareem Jackson got cut,
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
about a
That's
week
right.
ago. So he's already low key cleaning house in
Yep.
order to make the Saints 2.0 apparently.
Yeah.
But my thing is, as a football historian yourself, man, Sean Payton came from the Bill Parcells type of school of coaching. He came out of that tree.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's
apparently
what I'm
Bill
saying.
Parcells
Downhill
were
running.
very similar. It was a very, I'm gonna get in your face, so I'm gonna cuss you out. Is there any history with Bill Parcells? Maybe you can give us some perspective, my guy.
Yeah, I did not. That's an interesting fact. I didn't realize that he was out of the Parcells coaching tree, but that makes perfect sense.
Mm,
No, not really. Anything Parcells did like that, like yeah. I mean, I've seen him get hot sometimes on the line, but I actually saw
mm,
Parcells do much more of. Especially as the playoffs would go on and stuff like that, I would see him do much more of him singling out guys like Taylor and stuff like that and hugging them and like
mm.
looking like they were like best buddies, like, God damn, I love you. You know, you've made my team and stuff like that. That's what Parcells would do emotionally, publicly. I didn't see him
Mm.
ever like for purpose really cuss somebody out on the sideline that I remember.
Okay, very fair, very fair. Because sometimes the coaching tree shows you how a coach really is and everything like that, but could be different. Maybe Sean Payton has his own vision, and like we'll see what happens in the next few years. Because this is a huge moment to see a franchise quarterback get. I say he got railroaded, man. You could at least give
Oh,
him the full season,
yeah.
or give him some. Give him until the end of the
Well,
season. I don't
I,
know, man.
I think
It
the
is what it is.
consideration was that if he had an injury between now and June 1st, I think
Yes,
it like the payout goes like he gets another 30 million for injuries or something like that.
yes,
So
yes.
that's what they were thinking in that regard. So it just shows you how far ahead they really are thinking. So
Mm.
yeah, well, Russell Wilson, I don't cry for Russell Wilson. As we've seen from the state of quarterback play in the league this year, Russell Wilson is not going to be unemployed for long.
Not at
He's
all.
gonna
Not at
sit
all.
there on a big fat stack of money and wait for his phone to ring, and his phone is gonna ring.
It's already ringing, and here's the thing. Here's something that might affect you. I've heard the Steelers is one of the teams that people
Don't
are
send
mulling
us Russell
around.
Wilson.
You don't
It'll be the
see it? You don't
same
see
thing.
it?
Tomlin's going to have the same problem that Sean Payton had.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah.
He's going to think he's a fucking self-absorbed twerp, and he doesn't want him on his team.
Oh snap! Oh snap! I'm coming in with that fire. But you know your team, so I don't blame you for that. But we got to talk about something that I saw
It's
you
the
in the
let
comments.
me tell you. Let me
Go
tell
ahead. Go
you.
ahead.
It's the
Hmm.
same. It's the same reason Tebow was a divisive figure. Russell Wilson is also a divisive figure. I'm
Very
sorry, I
much
hate to
so.
break
Yes.
it to you fundies out
Yeah.
there, but like
Yeah.
we all live in a secular world, and we really don't want to hear about your inspiration 24/7 unless it's football related.
And the crazy thing is, even a lot of his Seahawks teammates
Yep,
talked
same
really
thing.
bad about Russ,
Yeah,
about him being fake. I think he's a fake individual,
yeah,
but
yeah.
also I think that it is
Talk to
what it
guys
is.
like
Maybe that's
Marshawn
really who
Lynch
he
and
is.
Richard Sherman, like all those guys
Yeah.
like that. Real badasses. They hate that fucking twerp.
And think about it, it's football, man. You have to be a little bit rough around the edges, dog. Like I don't know, man. You have to be really a dog, And he didn't have that dog, and he's a more of a politician. Like I see Russ trying to be president. You know what I mean? I don't see Russ trying to have some beers with us and
Hmm.
go play pool and have a
Yeah,
cigar and just
that's why he's a.
do
That's
some
why
guy
he's a.
shit.
It's why he's a bit of a divisive figure, right? It's
Yeah,
one thing. It's one thing to say, "Oh, guys, that's really not my thing or whatever," right? But I'll catch you
yeah.
over here at some other place or whatever, right?
Mhm.
But when it's when you just ooze condescension,
Yes, that's the word, condescension. Yes, but I'll say this: that I saw some not only condescension, I saw some hate in the comments. My recent video, and I saw you going off, and I
yeah,
need
man.
you to talk about it. Let's talk about MVP talk. Who you got? Obviously, I got Lamar, and you got in the comments from my last video, and we were talking about it, man. These people in the comments were acting up. I love my audience. I love my people. I don't like
It was
you
just one
in the
guy. It was
comments.
just one guy.
Just one hater in the comments. But we were texting
He
earlier.
represents a
What are your
lot of
thoughts on
people,
this,
though.
man?
He
Hmm?
represented. He represents a lot of people and a lot of thinking
Yes.
all over this country and in the U.S. And when I say this country, I mean Canada and the U.S. We're kind of
Yeah.
a unit
Kind of
country when it
melting
comes to
pot.
like sports culture and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What are
No,
what
he
are your
represents.
thoughts on? I know you wanted to expand on this, maybe compared to other greats. I
Yep.
got Lamar winning it, but there's still some Christian McCaffrey talk. Of course, I have no problem with Christian McCaffrey winning as well. There's some Tyreek Hill talk. But the thing is, like to set it up, basically, is that Lamar Jackson, ever since he started, in the league has never gotten the benefit of the doubt. They've always thought that he should be switching positions. He doesn't look like a stereotypical quarterback or talk like one. And there's inklings of kind of racism, or at least at the very least,
Bigotry.
ignorance and discrimination. You know what I mean? This can be a bigger topic, but Unc, you got passionate in the comments. I kind of seen you, and I want to get your point of view and on this, and yeah, give you a space to talk about it. You know what I mean?
All right. We'll do this in the context of the sort of the MVP discussion, so we don't just sort of end up in overtime and you know.
Yeah. What's
But
up?
yeah, no, you gave me four names: CMC, Lamar, Tyreek Hill, and Brock Purdy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, for me personally, out of that list of four, I would say CMC, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's a good
but
one.
you know how it goes, right? They're probably going to save the MVP award, or not the MVP, but the Offensive Player of the Year award for him, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Usually how it goes. So it brings us back to, and definitely Tyreek Hill is, he's not going to get the 2,000 number that we thought would be necessary for him to imprint MVP on the award.
yeah,
And Brock Purdy, of course, we know took a bit of a hit. Right, he
yeah,
showed himself, to be a little wobbly sometimes for an MVP candidate. So, still all very much in the all very much in the air. But
yeah.
the interesting thing about Lamar, Tyreek Hill, and Brock Purdy is in fantasy they're all within 12 points of each other.
Oh,
Remarkable.
really?
They're all, they're
Oh,
yeah,
what's
they're like
that?
they're like 14, 15, 16, sort of like overall or whatever, some kind of number like that. So yeah, fantasy is a good guide because it
Mm,
quantifies really neatly sometimes like production value and performance and all that type of stuff.
for
I mean, you
sure.
really see the way the NFL thinks about the MVP award when you look at fantasy rankings, because it's like, if you look at the top most productive people in fantasy, other than CMC, it's straight up quarterbacks, right? For the next 10 players after that. So that's to me why
Yeah.
CMC looks like an MVP. The fact that he's permeated the quarterback ranks for fantasy production tells you
But by the way,
just what
something
kind of
interesting to note: 59% of fantasy owners with CMC, Christian McCaffrey, made it to their championship game.
yeah. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Fantasy is very good at
Wow.
illuminating who is actually a valuable player. Um,
Yes.
anyway, so yeah, Lamar is an MVP to me, despite his sort of like his numbers are like top 10, top 12 in most
Mm,
quarterback rankings, with the exception of rushing. And that's
yeah.
not nothing. Remember, we went through all this last week where I compared sort of the top
Yes.
4 or 5, and I thought that Lamar had the best overall resume based on the paucity, meaning the scarcity of picks. He's got very few picks, but he's on his way to another
Mm,
1,000-yard rushing season.
yeah.
And he's going to have probably 25 or 26 touchdowns. Plus,
Mm.
how many rushing touchdowns does he have? What's another 7 or 8,
I
right?
think he has. I think he has 5 or 6, but I'm gonna check just to confirm. But he
So
has a
like
good amount. Yeah. Hmm.
add them all up, right? And because Dak had another great weekend too, in their razor thin win, like, he still had 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns and only one pick,
Mm,
I think. So I mean,
for sure.
like there's big numbers out there and whatnot, but Lamar is the only guy who really packages them all into one good sort of solid little but large output in offense,
Yeah.
and has a team that is doing very well. And he
Yes.
doesn't put his, but at the same time does not put that team at risk with an excessive amount of fumbles or turnovers or sacks. And that's where
Right.
Josh Allen and
Exactly.
Brock Purdy, Josh Allen, who was absent in this conversation, um, out
Yeah.
of the conversation as far as I'm concerned, because we're talking
Mm,
about the most valuable player. Which team has driven his team to probably the most wins? And I say it's Lamar, because the other, like, this is what
yes.
I'm talking about. You can't dismiss those numbers, right? Those rushing numbers. The guy is, I
No.
think, what is he overall? I've got it written. He is the QB 15, but he's also a top 20 running back,
Yes,
right?
he is. Yes, he
Like the
is.
guy
He's
gets
top 20
80
in rush
yards a
yards. Yep.
game.
Yep.
Like a
Yep.
1,000-yard season in a 1,000-yard rushing season in a 17
Mm.
game season works out to less than 60 yards, like 50 plus yards a week.
And think about it. He's the number one rusher on his
60
team.
yards a week,
Obviously,
basically.
J.K. Dobbins is out, got injured early in the season. Keaton Mitchell just went out last week or 2 weeks ago. The only Gus Edwards is helping on the in the red zone to punch it in,
right?
but Lamar is running plays, especially
Between the
that play
20s.
between the 20s. And think about it like this: what was the play of the game last week versus the Niners? It was Lamar's 30-yard run, and
Yep,
you can't really quantify that in passing stats or
exactly.
quarterback stats. So it's the impact in the game. Of course, Josh Allen has better numbers, but Josh Allen has a lot of picks. You know
And a
what I
lot of
mean?
losses.
And a lot of losses. Brock Purdy
Yep.
has better numbers, but look at Brock Purdy without Debo. Look at Brock Purdy without Trent Williams.
Look at Brock
Lamar
Purdy
Jackson,
against Look at Brock
the
Purdy
Ravens.
against Lamar. Even though they don't play each other on the field,
Yeah.
right? Right?
You
Who
know,
led their team to
so
victory?
we have to look at the QB. Well, it's basically quarterback award, but we have to look at the MVP award beyond just typical stats.
Yeah.
You have to see
But
what's going on in the field. You
but
know what I mean?
let me uh,
So,
let me continue with Lamar because this is an
yeah,
interesting
sure. Go
segue.
ahead. Yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm,
okay, so after laying out the case for this guy being like one of the premier players in the entire league, right?
yeah.
Let's be real here. And especially with the stat that I just pointed out to you. Like when a guy
Mm-hmm,
passes for like 3,500 yards on the season,
mm-hmm.
and rushes for 1,000, 1,200 yards, you're basically getting two players for one.
Yes. It's 2 for 1.
So
Yup.
the
Yup.
word in MVP is valuable, right?
Yup.
So that to me, that's just one more argument in his favor. Now, the reaction to Lamar. Okay,
Mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
the media, as we've seen, has been less than fluffy towards you know towards Lamar over the years.
Yeah.
And let's be real here: the media is overwhelmingly white. They have
True.
overwhelmingly throughout the years sort of had an idea of who a quarterback is. It's only in the last
Mm-hmm.
25 to 30 years that we've really truly gotten past this idea of, you've got quarterbacks and you've got black quarterbacks. No, they're all quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
You
Straight
know,
up. Mm-hmm.
the famous question of Doug Williams at what was it, the 92 Super Bowl or not? No, 80, anyways, whatever. When
It's somewhere
they
in the
asked him,
80s. Yeah. Doug Williams
yeah,
one.
the
Yeah.
80s.
Mhm.
How long have you been a black quarterback? Was actually asked by a member of the media. How long? Well,
Come on, man.
what's my birth certificate say? Um, you know,
Facts.
so that was actually asked of Doug Williams.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah. So there has definitely been this sort of mentality that a quarterback is a certain type of person. Phil Simms,
Yeah.
basically, right?
Mm.
Tall, blonde, good looking, articulate, speaks for the
Yeah.
team, right?
Yeah.
And this goes beyond just sort of the general perception, right? Because
Yeah.
the owner of the team, the general manager of the team, they all have to have a
Um,
relationship with that guy,
true.
right?
True. True.
So for a lot of years, the resistance to African American men playing quarterback in the NFL was beyond just sort of whatever
Yeah.
data
It
they
was
thought they
almost
had. It
societal.
was it was a
Yeah.
social privilege as much
Mm-hmm.
as anything else. So, anyways, all of that has contributed to a certain belief and impression, whether it's conscious or not, because quite often it is quite subconscious,
Could be.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
what a quarterback should be. Right. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Lamar obviously, ticks all the boxes of who a quarterback should be in the sense of like his
Mm.
height, his weight, his completion percentage, his 40 speed, like all these different
Mm.
types of things. Right. But when he comes out to address the media, right, he suffers
Mm.
from the same thing that Allen Iverson had. And that's the sense that, he won't leave his background behind. Right.
He
The
won't.
guy
He
likes
doesn't look like the part. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yup.
he likes to wear his hair natural. He likes to wear it long. Well, that
Yup.
doesn't unless you want to walk out of off the field or into an interview or all that type of stuff, with your hair looking like some 1970s Miami wide receiver, right? Because that fro
Yeah.
gets all compacted by the helmet, right? So,
Yeah.
what do people do? They organize their hair, right? White guys just
Put it in
get to put it
braids.
all in a bun or they put it in a ponytail. What
Yeah.
all just gathers up nice and neatly. Well, it doesn't work out like that for Lamar because his hair is different, right?
Yeah. Of
So what does
course.
he do? What does he do?
Puts it
He
in
cane
braids.
rows
Put it
it.
in braids.
He cane
Yeah,
rows it. He
cornrows.
braids
Yeah,
it. He puts it in
yeah.
all these hairstyles that, like, surprisingly, not
Mm.
surprisingly, African Americans do all over the world, or
That's what we
black
do,
people all over the
man.
world. People of
Yeah,
African extraction, they either keep their hair very low or they keep it braided in dreadlocks, organized in some form or fashion, or
no.
soften it, whatever, right? But it's like you have a different challenge with your hair than other folks around the world, right?
Mm.
So that is like you can't do anything about that. So of
Yeah,
course your hair
yeah.
is going to be braided like that, going to be taken care of like that, and you've
No.
got a hair cover over it too, to help
Of
sort of keep it
course, you gotta
organized and all
rag
that
the
stuff.
rag, you know
So
what I mean? Yo.
when you present in front of the media, you haven't hit the showers yet and all that type of stuff. You haven't got all that
Mhm.
Cam Newton stuff on, right? Right? You look
Yeah,
rough. You look
yeah.
rough. But black people looking rough in America and white people looking rough in America, there's a different
Different
reception.
perception.
And I'm not trying to
Definitely.
be divisive and I'm not trying to like stir up a whole bunch of crap, but it's just reality. There
Yeah,
are just
of
certain
course.
realities, and it's not even just like white people. Like there's black people too that look at certain black people how they're
Oh,
dressed and
yeah.
whatnot,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
church types, the conservative types, and all that stuff, and they say, "Oh, don't dress like that," whatever. So like, it's not like it's even a black or white thing necessarily. The guy likes to
It's
wear
just
his
a
hair long.
perception. He
The
likes
guy
to
likes
wear
to
his
wear his
hair
hair
long.
long,
He's from Florida, you know what I mean? He's a guy
right?
who's,
There's a
keeps
certain
that hood
style to
type of
South
vibe and look.
Florida,
But think
and
about this like this. He gets wins. He helps his team
okay,
win and he does what he has to do on the field. He's not in trouble.
okay,
He's
but
not getting DUIs. He's not getting any of it. Anyways, Unc, you were gonna
none
go
of
on
that
about that.
stuff. He
Go ahead.
doesn't have the
You
guy
never
hasn't caught a
know.
case. Guy hasn't caught a case anywhere. The
Nothing.
guy's been a model citizen. So I don't care how much he looks like
Great in the
every drug
community.
dealer you've seen in every movie
Yo.
you've ever watched. I don't really
Mm.
appreciate it when I hear some people, I don't care who they are, come up saying like, "Oh, he's great, but he should just shut up and throw the ball and not really address the media because the way
Right.
he talks is a bad example for all the other kids and all that stuff." Let me tell you something. English is the most effective language that there is out there in the world, right? Where people come
Yeah.
from says, how they talk. So
Yeah,
unless
of
you're going to
course.
sit there and tell the guy like, you're not allowed to talk, how your cousins talk
Oh,
and how your parents talk. You're not allowed to talk like that to the media. Listen, I promise you, when Lamar Jackson is trying to negotiate a business deal, he's talking to the bank and all
yeah.
that stuff, I'm sure he pulls out all the good grammar he knows. But when he's
Of
standing
course.
up there in his world at the
He can
podium,
do what he
addressing the
wants. He just
media, motherfucker, the
right.
man is going to be himself,
He's
right?
gonna be who he is. And you were gonna
And
talk about Edgar James. He had a
yeah,
similar thing, right? Adrian James.
because a very similar thing. Listen,
Mm.
Farrakhan, Minister Farrakhan said it once.
Shout out
Public
Farrakhan.
Enemy
Listen.
used to sample it on their records, their hip hop records in
Mm.
the 80s. And the phrase was too black and too strong. And that's basically what we're dealing
Ah,
with here is that
H on it.
yeah. I mean, you're talking about people just being themselves, feeling
Facts.
confident and strong in the situation they're in, right? I wouldn't act any differently than who I am in that situation. Why should I? It
Yes.
wouldn't even occur to me to speak differently than I'm speaking to you right now. Right? It
Facts.
wouldn't occur to me. And why
Facts.
should it occur to Lamar? Why should Lamar, worth all the money that
Mm.
he's worth, that guy is a man of great privilege and power in this country because we measure it by money, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
why the hell should he kowtow to y'all when he's sleeping on
Nah.
a bed of money at night? Fuck you,
Yeah,
right? Now, so
exactly.
Edgerrin James is actually came
Mm.
before. I'd like to tell the story of Edgerrin James, and
Yeah.
forgive me if I even get emotional about it because I just love the guy. Right? When I
Go ahead,
first
brother.
when I first moved to Florida in '98, I was looking for my college football team. Right? I was in Florida now. Everybody had a team. Right? I mean, the
Yeah.
Cornhuskers were my team. Right? They just come off a national championship and stuff, but in Florida, everybody's got a team, right? A local team. So even though
Mm.
I hated the Hurricanes for a long time because of what they did to my Cornhuskers in '83, I actually grew to respect them after Michael Irvin and all those just great players came out of Jimmy Johnson's program
Mm.
and whatnot, right? So I actually started to respect them. So and when I came down to Florida, I quickly realized I hated FSU and Florida mostly because of their fans. And when I watched them play Washington, in
Mm.
98 in a game that was actually delayed because of a hurricane that had come earlier. So it was the
Oh.
end of the year, and yeah, they had to win and all this type of stuff. And so I watched that game live, and all I could see down in the Miami stands were a whole bunch of people that reminded me of Toronto, right? A huge diversity of yeah, where I had just moved from, right?
Jamaicans,
So
yo.
I
Yo.
looked at it, I said, you know what? I would feel at home in that crowd, right? That would be
Let's
very
go.
cool. And Edge
Mhm.
ran for almost 300 yards that game, won the game for them. Now
Wow.
he went on, and this is the year that Ricky Williams was in the draft, right? When you had
Mm.
that stupid ESPN cover with Ricky Williams wearing those, or Coach Mike Ditka wearing the big fake dreads, standing
Yeah, it
next
was
to Ricky
weird.
Williams in a wedding dress, and how he traded his entire draft for him, and blah, 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 blah. So it's just dreadlocks, dreadlocks, dreadlocks. What's going to happen to the dreadlocks in the NFL?
All right, here
Are we
I
going to
have.
allow this? Right. Meanwhile, here comes
Yeah.
Edgerrin James that nobody's heard about. This guy is from Immokalee, Florida. I don't know if you know Immokalee, Florida, but it's north of Miami, up in the sugarcane fields. It is the one of
Mm.
the few places in all of America outside of Indian reservations and the like that has truly
Mm.
third world conditions. You know, 50, 60% unemployment, a standard of living, a GDP per capita GDP among individuals that is like half of what even the poverty line is and stuff. Like it is a very poor
Mm.
and desperate place, full of drug dealing,
Mm.
all that type of stuff. And he comes from there,
Damn.
but he also, strong family, all that type of stuff. So
Mm.
he comes in with his dreadlocks, and not just dreadlocks, but gold fronts, right? That Miami look, right? Of
Yeah,
the early 2000s, Trick Daddy, all that type of stuff. So
for
again,
sure.
everybody's like going like, who is this guy? Like, they were ready to burn Jim Irsay in Indianapolis. They thought like, my God, like what are you doing bringing this guy in? Who the hell is this guy? And why did he get drafted before Ricky Williams? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm
Mm.
sorry. Edgerrin James is probably one of the most intelligent people that has ever emerged into the NFL in the way that he approached
Um,
it. This guy, this guy definitely never for a second ever changed who he was or where he came from, his friend groups, anything. When he got injured, right, he went back to
mm.
Immokalee, right, bought
Mm.
buildings for working and training out in, right, and
Oh,
all the
wow, I
national
didn't
media.
know that.
Yeah, all the national media is going crazy, saying like, "Who does this guy think he is?" But when he's back there in Immokalee, he's just gonna, he's gonna hang out with friends and stuff. And again, they're all making the assumptions that his friends are drug dealers, that his friends
Mm.
are like involved in this stuff, and he's just somehow magically stayed out of it and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Like he knew everybody involved. He knew Trick Daddy, who was like South Florida's premier hip hop guy, right? And they
Mhm,
all looked
mhm.
up to Edge, not the other way around, because Edge was the most disciplined and intelligent guy probably to come out of Immokalee in a long time. Like no matter what that guy chose to do in this life, he was gonna succeed, right?
Yep,
So this
yep,
is a 180-degree difference. Again, no charges, right? Took care of all his kids, had a whole
course.
bunch of them, by the way, right? Like
It
stayed
happened.
loyal to
Okay,
everybody, right? Like this guy's a
sure.
man, right? And he handled all his business. And he never and he said he estimated he left up to $5 million in sponsorships on the table because when
Mm,
confronted with the choice of shaving off his hair and taking out his fronts and all that stuff and doing all that kind of work for
said
aesthetics
no.
to please the media, to please people like me, supposedly, right? That he could have made a whole bunch more money. And don't get it wrong, man. Don't get it twisted. Edge was all about the money. Like that's the way he
Yep.
looked at it, right? He did
Mm,
not drink, smoke, do any of these types of things, even though he stayed out all night long, right? Because he considered his body to be his moneymaker and he didn't want to mess with
yeah,
that, right? So
that's it.
really super mature, right? Guy was a father when he entered the NFL, right? The
Mm,
guy loved
mm.
his elementary school girlfriend. Like if you change colors on this guy, made him like white and pretty and with a Wisconsin sweater on and stuff like that, this guy would be a national hero with all
Yep.
these character attributes. But
Mhm,
no,
mhm.
but no. You know how many years it took for them to like shake the idea that Edge wasn't involved in any of this type of stuff? Jim Irsay gave him a ring, even though he got traded off of Indianapolis
Really?
the year before they won their Super Bowl. It's the only ring he's ever given
Oh,
to non-staff for any purpose whatsoever because they felt that
Wow.
his efforts in the previous 6 years were so integral and they had salary
Mm.
cap issues. And he said, "You guys are good when you guys drafted Joseph Adai. I'll go out on the free agent market and find another team. But you guys need to keep these guys together because you don't really need me anymore. You're going to be good elsewhere. You've got like it's so selfless. The guy's thinking like a
Yeah.
general manager, and yet his own cheddar's at stake, right? You
Mm.
think of the selfishness. Well, Ursay recognized that, and he recognized what it meant, and he gave him a ring. So Edge has a ring, even though he never won a Super Bowl, right? And so,
Wow. I didn't
okay,
even know.
and when he got himself injured like that and went back to Immokalee, you know the one guy who was in his corner that said, "If Edgerrin thinks that's the best thing to do, that's good enough for me." Guess who said that? That guy right
Yeah.
there on the picture,
Pey-
Peyton
Peyton
Manning,
Manning. Oh
said,
wow. I didn't even
if
know.
he thinks Immokalee the best way to go, I trust this guy so much. Why wouldn't I believe him if he says that? Right. So
Oh.
that's the impression Edgerrin James made on the people around him. And I haven't even gone
Mm.
all the way yet. By the way, his Hall of Fame speech, that picture there with the Hall of Fame guy, his Hall of Fame
Mm.
speech, everybody should look it up. It's amazing. He went in there and he was
Oh.
himself right to the very end. So, yeah, when I hear stories about this guy and Lamar, I get really
Mm.
upset because I know the
Wow.
details. I know who these people are as much as I can, being an outsider. I don't know them personally. But when I
Right.
look at their resumes and I look at the things that haven't happened, when I think of a guy like
Mm.
Edge and I think of a guy like Lamar, I think of Alan Page, that guy who went on to become a lawyer after
Mm.
his career with the Minnesota Vikings. But the thing is,
Mm.
guys like Lamar and Edgerrin James are so intelligent and business oriented and whatnot that they don't
Wow.
need to go into professions afterwards. They just man. I can think of a few different NFL players that have turned out to
Mm.
be incredible, very good businessmen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and they don't need law school to go to after. Alan Page did that in the '70s. Highly ranked lawyer in the sports industry, right?
Oh
But he
wow.
reminds me of a guy like that, Alan Page. Alan Page is more
Yeah.
conservative, but
Mm.
more socially conservative, generally speaking. He comes from a different era. But these
Yeah.
guys, it's not because they come from a new era and they have new style that they should be
Mm.
treated like some type of pariah to be kept away from our kids and just keep them on the field. Just let them do what they do. You're
You
talking you're
think
talking about them like they're subhuman, and I hate that. That's fucked up.
it's definitely fucked up, and you thank you for telling that story and teaching me. I just learned a lot in everything you said about Editor and James, and you're absolutely right. Just because you look a certain way doesn't mean you are a certain way. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Just because somebody has gold fronts, dreads, don't mean he's a criminal. Maybe that's his style. Maybe he likes that. That's maybe him. But
Yep.
you have to judge the character of the individual.
That's right.
Is the character matching up with who they are, man? There's dudes out there who look clean cut, big smiles, but they'll stab you in the back when they get the chance, and you would never guess it. And then you look at a dude like Edgerrin James, like what you saying, he would give the water off his back, like he would do above and beyond for you. He seemed like a genuine great person, and that's the issue when we look at the quarterback debate and the you know what I'm saying the conversation regarding a guy like Lamar Jackson. People would think he's looks a certain way, he is a certain way, but Lamar is great with kids. He's great in the Ravens community. He's just a guy who really is serious about football. He has his style, he has his flair, he has his personality.
And he's
But think about
entitled
all
to it.
the he's entitled to it. He performs on the field and he's good off the field. Look at the guys who went before him. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen. It's easy to argue that he was the best quarterback in that class, and
The
he's
guys who
ranked
drafted Josh. I remember
way
when
above
Josh
his
Rosen was in
guy.
that draft, and I just remember saying
Yeah.
somebody's going to eat shit on Josh Rosen. Got drafted
Oh
before
my
Lamar.
God. Yes. So, every book, you don't judge a book by its cover, man. I'm just searching up Alan Page right here. He
There
looks
you go.
well dressed up, and he was apparently playing for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know much about him, but Unc, any maybe stories or perspective about Alan Page? Seems like he's in some lawyer type garb, and
Yeah,
He got a medal of some kind of presidential medal.
that's
Interesting.
right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, Alan Page is a Lion.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was.
Mm.
Yeah, big, tall, lanky, physical player, but extremely
Mm.
smart. Started negotiating his own contracts early on. So, like, this
Wow.
is another guy who, again, like I'm talking about, like a guy like Edgerrin, Lamar, um,
Mm.
these people, Doug Williams. These are all Warren Moon. These are all
Warren
people
Moon
who,
was
like,
great. Yep. No.
well, not just great players, but they figured out how the game is run and what their priorities should
Mm.
be, right?
Mm. Mm.
Like Mario Lemieux was the same. Like, he quickly realized that what he wanted to be an owner. He didn't want to be a coach and all
Mm.
that crap. You know, so like there are
Smart.
certain players out there that they see what side of the bread is buttered, and they see
Mm.
that there's more to them than being just football players, and they reach for it. And that's not every player in the NFL by a long stretch. Black, pink, white, yellow, brown, polka dot. I don't
You're
care where you
absolutely
come
right.
from, right?
No.
You know, because like again to the Lamar thing about they shouldn't be speaking to our kids, right? Should Brett Favre be speaking to our kids? Should
Absolutely
Donald
not.
should Donald Trump be speaking to our kids?
Probably not.
Right?
Probably not.
But yet nobody questions. Nobody questions whether nobody questions them when they speak.
I'll say this: when we talk about prejudice, racism, all these things, perceptions, discrimination, these are ills of the world, man, and we can go deep
Yeah,
into it. But this is a football podcast. We just wanted to sprinkle that little knowledge, and
yeah,
all the
yeah.
hater, that one hater in the comment, get out of here. We want love,
Well,
we want unity, we want respect. That's what
well,
we approve here of the Unc and Phew
well.
football show, man.
Just
That's all we
open your
do. Keep
mind.
it real.
Just open your mind.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Success and character can come in any manner of shape or form.
So true,
And
man.
I
So
really
true.
hate it. I really hate it when I see that type of stuff being said, because it's held back a lot of people for a lot of years. And I'm not speaking to any one particular set of people. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Oh yeah.
that type of bias it's
We don't
really, and
play that.
especially in 2023. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
We
We're
can do
better than
better than
that.
that. We can do better than
But
that.
you know what I want, man? I want to see you do better tonight as you go for that fantasy
Oh
football
boy.
chip, bro. You better do better. So we gotta get into that fantasy talk, my brother. What
Yeah.
is up with our fantasy MVPs, man? Who do you, I think I know the guy you're gonna give the MVP to, but I'm gonna let you do the honors. Who are your fantasy football
Well,
MVPs,
oh,
man?
fantasy
As we go to
MVP's
the end of the year,
got to be CMC. That stat you
it's
gave earlier
CMC.
about what was it, 39% or whatever of people who have
Like
CMC on their team,
59%. Yeah. Yeah,
59. Like, so
59%.
6 out of
Yeah.
10 people who drafted that guy are in the championship. Like,
Facts.
he's he's like one of about three pieces on my team that didn't change all year long. That's
Facts.
it. Okay,
Yep.
so fantasy, right? This is a championship weekend.
Yes,
Anybody
sir.
who's playing in a championship weekend next weekend, you need to find another league because everything goes crazy. Like,
Everything's done.
it's just ridiculous the amount of people who are going to be seated next weekend because they already have their playoff positions in order, right? So for any league of any repute, this is your championship weekend. Some of
Yes,
you
sir.
guys have been at it since what's it, week 15. Some of you guys have elimination rounds and whatnot, but we have a
Yeah.
14 team league, and all we have is a final four. That's it.
Final
Week
four.
16,
Yep.
17, that's it. You're losing, you go home. So that's what I'm up against today. So yeah, I've been I've been watching it real closely. So should
Mhm.
you have been. Now, we're not going to go into a whole bunch of flyers and all that type of stuff because that's not what championship weekend is about. The most likely scenario, if you're in your championship game this weekend, is that you have largely studs on your team. So the
Yes,
one
sir.
exception to most of our fantasy conversations is we're going to be talking pretty much all studs this time around, because
Mhm.
chances are you've got most of those guys and those options available to you if you're playing in the championship this weekend. So
Yep.
my number one principle that I always say is look out for your games with high scores, right? Predicted. So that's AZ at Philly, Arizona at Philly, San
Mm.
Francisco at Washington,
Okay.
Detroit at Dallas has already played, and Miami at Baltimore sort of squeaks in at 46.5 points. But
Got you.
we talked earlier about how that may or may not play out like that, and there's it's kind of a coin flip whether it's going to be a defensive battle or whether it ends up balling out, right? But
Mm,
those are your high point games. So quarterbacks in good spots this weekend, based on that information that I just gave you, is believe it or not, Kyler Murray hasn't been burning it up, but he's going to be in a game where he's going to have an opportunity to score points. Philly's weakness
mm,
on defense is on
mm.
their cornerbacks. They stop the run better than they stop the pass. So Kyler Murray's probably in a good spot. Brock Purdy, obviously, right?
Yes, sir.
Um,
Brock. Mm,
Jalen Hurts, obviously playing Arizona, is in a place to score a ton of points. Mahomes.
yes.
Cincinnati has brutal pass defense and run defense. It's literally at the bottom of the league in some spots. So Mahomes is probably going to do very
Yeah.
well, as will probably obviously Celts. My guess is that it's
Mm,
all Celts all the time this weekend. Mahomes is sick of shit. He just wants to get back to what works. Um,
yeah.
right, Stroud against Tennessee, just simply because they're a
Oh, he's
pass
back.
funnel. Yes,
Oh,
yes, he is.
nice. Good. Good.
Stafford's playing the Giants. Now it's an early game on the road, and the weather might be miserable, but Stafford's played very well recently, so he's in a position to succeed against another pass funnel offense or defense, which is the New York Giants. Also,
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield's been playing very well. They've been putting up a lot of
Yes.
yards, and New Orleans is reputedly decent defense, but not recently. They're turning into
Yeah.
a bit of a pass funnel. At running back, James
Mm,
Conner again playing against Philly. Believe it or not, even though Philly plays well against plays well against the run, Connor's pretty much the only game in town. He's probably going to get a lot of dump off passes too. So look for
mm,
Connor to do well. CMT
mm.
obviously. Mostert, he's like the second ranked running back behind CMC. He's got as many
Yeah.
touchdowns as CMC. So if you got him and he's playing, you're playing, but I think he might be a little dinged up right now. I'm not sure. So anyhow, he
Yeah.
doesn't play. Achane is probably going to do fairly well.
By the
But
way,
again,
small heads up, Mostert is out, so Achane
he,
is the guy.
so
Yeah.
Achane is the man. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Travis Etienne going up against Carolina, right?
Mm,
Carolina stops
yep.
the pass very well. So they're going to go,
Mm,
but they don't, they're the mirror opposite against the run, right? So
mm.
Carolina is a bit of a run funnel, right? So chances are that Etienne gets back on the horse and has a good week. Let's see here. Kyrie Williams must start every time, all the
Kyrie
time.
Williams. Yes,
And he's
sir.
got a good matchup too, right? So DeAndre
Mm,
Swift and like any runners, like DeAndre Swift against Arizona should also perform well. Now, on the other side of the field in the Jacksonville Carolina game is Chuba
yeah.
Hubbard. I'm guessing
Chuba
Chuba
Hubbard.
Hubbard is
Yes.
right
Yes.
because Jacksonville's a run funnel. You can run on Jacksonville, so I'm expecting
Right.
Chuba Hubbard, who's had some prolific games down the stretch, to do well today, and also Zamir, because Josh Jacobs apparently is questionable or doubtful to play today. So
Zamir White killed it in the
Zamir White
Raiders. Yep.
for the
Zamir White.
Raiders has
Mhm.
shown you what he can do, and he's going to have the backfield pretty much to himself today. So there you go.
There you
At
go.
Indy. Now, running backs to sit, believe it or not, Derrick Henry, I'm pretty sure he's toast for the year. He's done. Like he's mailing it in from this point. He hasn't been
Oh,
that great, and they're playing Houston, which does stop the run fairly well. So I'm not expecting great things out of Derrick Henry. But again, almost every
yeah.
name that I mentioned here, if they're on your roster, like don't mess around, right? Like if
Mm,
these guys are your 1-2 guys that have got you here to the final, unless you've got Zamir White to replace Derrick Henry with, like don't get slick, right? You don't know what's going to
yeah.
happen for
Don't.
sure.
Don't get cute.
Um,
Yep.
Same with Bijan in Chicago. He's got a very tough
Mm,
matchup, and he hasn't been prolific. Gus Edwards in Miami. Unless he falls in the end zone a couple of times, he's not going to be getting like 85, 100 yards, right? Tough
mm.
matchup.
How question? Random question.
Sure.
Gus Edwards or Joe Mixon? Because I'm in a third place game. Gus
Mixon.
Edwards or Joe Mixon? Mixon?
Mixon. Yep.
Okay. Got you. I will. Thank you.
Okay, glad to be of service. Isaiah Pacheco is questionable today, going against Cincinnati. If he's fully healthy, Pacheco's a good matchup against Cincinnati. They give up a fair number of yards and points. Josh Jacobs, like I said, is doubtful, and Zach Moss is out. So a lot of
Yep.
fantasy staples in there that you need to, if you haven't already made adjustments, and I'm sure you have if you're in the final, but if you haven't already, get to it, right?
Yes, sir.
Also, what else we got in here? Wide receivers. Right, I told you, I
What up?
promised you fantasy guys. I'm going down through the whole gambit today. Good
What's good?
spots, obviously Debo and Ayuk, AJ
Mhm.
Brown and Devonta Smith in Philly, Nico Collins
Mhm.
in Houston's in a good spot. Metcalf at Pittsburgh. Now I'm a little worried about Pittsburgh, or pardon me, Metcalf. He may get
Okay.
shadowed by Joey Porter Jr. Also, too, his back has been a little tricky this week. But unless you've got a better option than DK Metcalf, you're playing him.
Yeah.
Chris Olave playing against Tampa
Love
Bay
it.
might be my lead pipe
The
lock of
dark
a
horse.
wide receiver. Yeah, he's probably going to
Oh,
do really well. And Thielen even against Jacksonville.
huh?
And now the other one too, Michael Pittman is looking to be like he's
Mm.
out of the concussion protocol now. His arm is better, shoulders better. He's going up against Vegas, which isn't ideal, but you're not sitting Pittman for love nor money. There's just no way. He's been one of the very few matchup proof receivers this year. So
I
that's
got a
Pittman.
question for you. Quick advice. Quick question. Tyler Lockett or Gabe Davis? And I'm asking for
Good
myself.
question. Yeah.
Which one you got?
Probably. Wow. Good question. I
It's
think Gabe
tough
Davis.
because Gabe Davis sometimes he'll go off and sometimes he'll give you a zero goose
Yep.
eggs, dog.
Boomer bust, boomer bust. So it was Gabe Davis and who else did you want in there? Tyler Lockett. I'd probably
Um,
take Lockett. Lockett's probably got a safer.
Lockett's Pittsburgh. Okay.
Lockett's probably got a safer floor than Gabe Davis, but Gabe Davis has definitely got a much higher ceiling. But
Yeah.
they're playing New England this weekend, and New England has been they've been
Mm,
playing some pretty good defense, and the over under for that
no,
game is under 40. So I'm not looking for big numbers. You notice that game did not make my list of high scoring affairs. So
no, it didn't.
I'm
No,
I'm
it didn't.
dubious. I'm dubious about almost all Buffalo skill players except Josh Allen.
Great
Um,
point.
Devontae Adams, another one probably to avoid. If you look at his production over the last 6 weeks, even like basically since the half point of the season, has not been good.
Yeah. Mhm.
Jordan Addison, another boomer bust kind of guy. Pickens also boomer bust. You're
Yes.
not trusting your fantasy football players to guys with boomer bust, unless you are like the most unlikely son of a gun who just fell backwards into the playoffs somehow. That's not really the game you're playing this week.
Unc,
At
you know
tight,
that literally happened to me. Pickens went off last week, and Gabe Davis went off last week. Both are riding my bench.
yeah. Chasing points it's terrible. At
Yeah.
tight end, Travis Kelce, I'm pretty sure for the reasons I mentioned earlier, is going to have a big game today.
Yeah.
Him and Rashi Rice are probably going to be the main targets. I think Mahomes is at a point where he just doesn't trust anybody anymore except himself and those two guys.
Yeah.
There's noise too about Edwards-Helaire probably doing well and all that stuff, but he's not a tight end. So Travis Kelce, Kittle going against DC is probably that's a lock. McBride going against Philly, also looking very very good. Okanakwu from Tennessee is playing Houston. Also in a good spot, just simply because Houston doesn't stop a lot of tight ends, and he's done well recently. Take great caution with Kyle Pitts and Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet, I believe, is actually a game time decision, so don't trust. Like Cole Kmet's been great. He's been a great fill in at tight end, but if there's any
Yeah.
chance whatsoever that the wrong tweak, the wrong tackle on the guys out of the game at halftime, that ruins, that's not good for your team. So
Mm,
approach Kyle Pitts with caution because of the matchup going against Chicago, and Cole
yeah.
Kmet because of his knee. Right. But those are guys who are technically in good spots, actually. But I would be very careful. And Goddard in going against Arizona is just Goddard's a good tight end.
Yeah.
Hawkinson's on IR, so do not play him. Ingram's playing Carolina, which is a tough matchup. But if Ingram's in your lineup, you got to play him. You're not going to play around.
Okay.
The guy's going to get a ton of targets today, so it's just a matter of whether he catches them. And
Okay.
Hunter Henry in Buffalo. Don't take skill players against Buffalo. uh, for
Yeah.
your DST
DST, talk to us.
your defense and special teams, both
Mhm.
Baltimore and Miami are the number 2 and number 4 defenses in fantasy. So
Oh.
Well, yeah, go
Oh,
figure, right? And
wow.
In Vegas, like I mentioned earlier, almost 20 points a week since the coaching change.
Mm,
Uh, Buffalo at New England, either one of those defenses is probably also going to have a decent performance today. San Francisco at Washington is just a no-brainer. Now, for a minute there, they were talking about they were going to put in, what's his name? The backup quarterback to replace Sam Howell. Guy used Jacoby Brissett.
oh, Jacoby Brissett, but then he got hurt. He got
Yeah,
hurt, and now
but
Sam Howell's coming back.
it's funny. The over/under increased by
Yeah.
7 points when Jacoby Brissett came in. Anyway, so he's
Wow.
now out. So we're back to Sam Howell, which means
Yeah.
San Francisco D, my D, hopefully will feast on numerous interceptions and fumbles today and sacks.
Mhm,
So those are your good-looking defenses.
mhm.
Um, Not so good spots, and also Chicago. Right? Don't miss Chicago if you have any chance to get Chicago.
Nice.
Going today if you don't have another. So if you've been streaming defenses, Chicago let you down last week after all the hype, as often happens in
Yeah,
fantasy. But I
yeah, they
don't think
didn't
they
do
miss
good.
out again. Yeah, they don't. They don't do that. They bounce back this week. I'm pretty sure. Um, they're playing Tyler Heineke, right? He's either going to put up 40 or he's going to give 5 interceptions, right? I'm going to opt for the latter. So avoid Indy defense, avoid Pittsburgh defense, just because it's that time of the year. I hate to say it, right? Minnie's defense is in a good spot. They've played well, but they're going up against Jordan Love in Green Bay. That game could easily get out of
Mm,
hand, right?
that's a good point.
New Orleans, and also I would avoid KC's defense for the same reason. They're going to win today, but Browning hasn't put up less than three. Browning's another Flacco. The guy puts up 3 picks, but
Yeah,
335 yards and 2 TDs. Yeah, so yeah, I would be
yeah,
careful about KC
that's the
today.
line.
I'd be careful
Yeah.
about KC today. They might find themselves in a bit more of a shootout than they imagined.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
It's
so
always
that's my
drama
look.
with Kansas City. You know what I mean?
That's my rundown on fantasy. If any of all that
Yeah.
bevy of information, I know that was a lot of info, but you all
Hey
deserve it.
man.
We've been crunching these numbers all year, and it's the time when it really matters. So I just thought I'd put all that out there for you all.
Oh, we appreciate that, Uncle man. Y'all should slap a like and get in the comments and show Unc some love for his hard research on these things, bro, because he's breaking it down at a precise level, and he's
Yeah,
got to
man.
rep me by winning tonight. We need you to get this dub and win this championship for us. I might get you some chicken wings or something after as a gift. I'm commissioner of the league. But I'll say this: we are seeing some interesting matchups. Talking about, this week 17, let's talk about some lines and spreads, brother. How is it looking for you on the betting side? Lines and spreads as we go into week 17, bro.
All right,
There's a
I
lot
got
of
a few.
money to be made, brother. What do
I
you got
got a
2 or 3
few.
games for me? Yeah.
Well, before we get going, I'm going to give. Remember last week I talked about I was doing a bit of an intellectual exercise. We were deep enough into the season with enough data that I wanted to do my formula there with the points for, points against, the home field advantage built in, and all that type of stuff. And I'd just like to
Mm.
report back that my gut got me 10-6 last week, and my formula
Okay.
got me 6-10. So it just goes to
Oh.
show you that the formula is a good guideline. It called
Yeah.
games that other people wouldn't have got, right? It called the Chargers game.
Hmm.
It grabbed and got a couple games right that a lot of people didn't. But the beauty would be if you could combine the two. But at the end of the day, remember, right? Your gut is your
Hmm.
guideline. Like how you feel
Yeah.
about the games, the eye test, all that stuff matters, right? Because I went with straight
100%.
data last week, and if I'd actually gone to the betting booth with that data, I would have got crushed. But my gut, my knowledge of the game, just sort of watching it, like 'cause some things like there's not there's that old saying, right? You've got
Yeah.
lies, damn lies, and then statistics, right? So you have to use
Oh,
your
I never
human
heard of that.
brain and your gut to interpret the numbers that the guidelines give you. So
Yes,
just
sir.
let me put that out there. I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, so the biggest game we got to talk about, of course, is Miami at Baltimore, which is sitting at what,
It's
three and a half
huge.
points right now.
Yeah, let me check right now. Yeah, it's 3 points. Just 3 points
with the
even
plus
actually. Just three
with
points.
the aforementioned plus or minus of 46.5.
Yep. It's right there. I'm gonna
Yep.
put it up
Well,
right now. 46.5. Yep. Over under. Well, yep.
both teams are solid against the spread, as you might imagine, all that stuff. So this is a
Mm,
complete gut pick. Baltimore
mm,
minus 3.5, even though they're
yep.
testing you with that extra half point, and the over. Yeah, even though I think the
Yep.
defenses will be on display here, I have a feeling defenses might be scoring. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm going to take the over on that, because
Yeah.
otherwise, like that's an implied score of like you know
Like
26
24,
20, 27
27.
23,
Yeah.
something like that,
That
and
type
I
of
think it's going to be a
combination.
little bit more exciting than that.
Yeah.
um, Both Miami's cornerbacks, Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, are out. So
They're out.
that's what makes me think we might be going over the over. I have a feeling Lamar's going to
Oh.
feast on those guys.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Zay Flowers is gonna go off. Yep. Yep.
Yep. And now the other one I found interesting, of course, because of the size of the point spread and all the things that I just mentioned a few minutes ago regarding New England and Buffalo. Buffalo's favored by
Mm.
14 points. Well, we saw Buffalo
14.
with 12.
Wow. 14
We,
and a
we,
half is what they're
we
showing here. Yeah.
saw them
Wow.
favored by 12.5 against the Chargers. And I just mentioned to you a minute ago that Chargers covered that spread by a lot.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
Plus or minus is 40. I'll take the
Mm.
under.
You
I
take
see
the under? Okay.
Buffalo. Yeah, I see
Sure.
Buffalo winning, but New England plus 14, easy. Yep. And
Okay.
another one, it's interesting. Vegas at Indy.
Yes.
Indy's what? It's favored by 4 or +4. What's that again?
They're 3.5 for favorites. Indy 3.5.
Indy is
Yep.
right against Vegas.
Indy
Yeah,
is.
that's why I've
Yep.
got Vegas to cover that and the over. I
Oh.
imagine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Indy
I
scores a
like
lot.
that action.
Indy
Yeah.
scores a lot, and Vegas has showed you that they can score on defense, right?
Yes, they
20 points
can.
a week, dude. 20 points a week. Um,
Wow.
Carolina playing Jacksonville. Carolina's +4 at Jacksonville. Over under of 36.5. I'll take the over on
Mm.
that one, just based on that performance we saw last week by Carolina. They scored close to 30. And Carolina,
Mm.
yeah, give me Carolina +4. Give me Carolina plus
Okay.
four. Yep.
Carolina +4. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
So those are the lines I've got highlighted for this week.
There you go. And something that I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit was our games of the week, man. I'm thinking, man, that Raiders versus Colts game, man. I think that's gonna be an entertaining game, bruh.
That's why I
Especially with the
circled it.
stakes. I'm like looking at it. Obviously, the obvious one is Ravens Miami, but I
Yep.
think that Colts and Raiders game is gonna be great, man. How do you look
They're
at?
fighting it
How
out.
do you think it plays out? You know what I mean? I
Well,
like that game. You know.
well, they're playing at home, right? Indianapolis is playing at home. I think that
Mm,
yeah, no, I think that Indy goes in there, keeps them under 30 points, and somehow manages to
mm.
keep it close. Yeah, no, I think their defense interrupts and harasses Minshew in a way he's probably not accustomed to playing.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just I see I think that Oakland covers and gets the better of Indianapolis. It would not shock me at all if Oakland wins in Indianapolis this weekend.
Me too, me too. Because when like we talked about that scenario, I don't know if it's 100% gonna happen, but there's a off chance that the Raiders win that AFC West division, and this would be a massive game because you
It
have an
starts
eight and
today if they're going to
seven.
do that.
If they want that campaign, they better start today because
Yeah.
the Colts look like a playoff team and they might even win that division.
Well,
But something that we'll see. Hmm.
The Colts are
Go ahead.
in as of right now. If the playoffs started today, the Colts are in.
Oh, the Colts are in. Yeah, exactly,
Oh
exactly. They're a
wait,
playoff team.
yeah, no, they are as a wild card. They are.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm looking at the standings right now. Colts are no one actually there'll be a wild card. The Jags are number one, my bad.
Yeah,
At 8-7. The Colts are number two at 8-7. They would be in the playoffs. If
yeah,
the playoffs started today, they'd be probably like a 6, maybe 7 seed. I don't know.
6 or 7
Pretty
seed.
low.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, and Oakland wants
Yeah.
in. Oakland wants to switch out that spot with them. So that's entirely possible.
probably a win out type situation. But I'll say this, man, we got year's almost over. What were your favorite times
got
on
a
the
long one
podcast?
today.
Yeah, yeah, I like it, man. I like it. We're going overtime for real. I don't mind it, bro.
We'll
Y'all
see if the
deserve it.
people have the patience
2023.
to hang in. I hope y'all
Yeah,
stay.
there we go. There we go. So I'll start off. One of my favorite moments was having Jazz with the beer. That's
Yeah,
so funny. I
yeah.
like that moment, man.
The
When we
the
linked
in
up in
person
person.
the in
Yup.
person pod was a lot of fun for sure, for
Hilarious,
sure.
bro.
And well,
Mm,
and my favorite my favorite part of the season so far was my first certainly I wasn't
mm.
the champion, but just my first championship game in this league since I came over here
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago. This is my
Yes,
first
sir.
time in the championship final. I believe. I think I came up short the other couple of times I was in the final
Yeah,
four. So
we're close.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's my pleasant memory for 2023,
Yes,
and also
sir.
just seeing the general success of this pod. Last year we
Yeah.
had a little problem with scheduling. We missed a few
Yeah.
along the way as we sort of struggled down the thing. I changed jobs, things like that. But this year we've been at it. I think we've only missed 1 week, maybe two in the whole season. And
Mm.
so I'm very pleased about, and we've also settled on a format.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
we've just worked on all the details this year, so I'm very pleased with the way the pod has gone, and I'm pleased with the
Mm.
response from the people who've been tuning in to watch. We've watched the viewership grow, we've watched the
Yeah.
engagement grow, and people, I just want to say thank you, and I hope to see you all again next fall. And
There
we'll
we
see you through the
go.
playoffs. We're gonna do this through the playoffs, right?
Obviously, man. Come
Yo,
on,
I
man. We're
was
gonna
gonna
keep on
say
going, bro. Come on,
this,
dog. You know how we do, man.
this ain't
As
this
long as
ain't
you
just
wanna go, I wanna go.
this ain't just fantasy football, right? This is football holistic. So
As a
yeah,
football holistic for sure.
so
We will
we'll be,
probably find a little something to fill in the fantasy football topic or area. But man, we'll be
or we
watching
might,
playoff football.
or maybe
We'll have a
just
lot to talk about. You know
or
what I mean?
maybe just pare these down a little bit. We got to keep it tight and clipped and less
Yeah.
rambling. We'll be focused on these games here as we go down the stretch. Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it, buddy. The playoffs in a way are my favorite, right? Because
Oh,
we're
yes.
done with the fantasy and all that minutia. Now we can
Mm.
just fucking focus on the very best football you're ever gonna see.
Oh yeah, and definitely we're gonna give y'all deep analysis of the games and what we really think of what's gonna happen in the future. It's gonna
Yeah.
be a fun playoff season. I'm really thankful for this year, man. 2023, especially with Unc and Phew. This show has been so much fun, man. Even through hangovers, I'm pulling through, man.
Oh,
Have a good time.
speaking of which,
Yeah.
I had a funny suggestion from a friend of mine living in Buffalo right now. Yeah,
Yeah. What's going on?
he says we should seek out the Ray and Nephew sponsorship.
Facts. We need that red nephew, G.
Yeah,
Oh
dude,
snap.
Is a high school buddy of mine, funny guy. So yeah, I was unsurprised to see that suggestion. And as usual, he's bang on right.
Is definitely right, man. I'm gonna say it
Yeah,
like this, man. We appreciate y'all for supporting all through 2023, man. 2024, Unc and Phew. We're gonna keep it rolling, keep the good times rolling. It's been
respect.
Unc football, big step of the nephew in this bit, and we appreciate y'all for tuning in with us. Let's go watch some football, y'all.
One
Peace
love,
out.
one
Yeah.
love, and happy New Year's, y'all.
Happy New Year's, people. We out. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.